Hello and welcome to the July 2024 energy reading, collective energy reading. My name is Melanie Santos. I am a multidisciplinary sacred artist with many mediums, mediumship, card reading, digital creation, meditation, breathwork, Kundalini yoga, all the things. And I use these mediums to gather the collective and try my best to honor and instruct on the nuances of living as cosmic beings in human bodies and the mind-body-spirit energetic connection. So if that tickles your fancy, I urge you to subscribe right now and to maybe like this video as you watch if you learn something or receive something that really serves as a balm to your soul. I wanted to get the introduction out of the way early as we get into the energy of July. The energy of July is, it feels special. It feels a little chaotic, to be very honest with you. Let's get into the specifics of the energy before we get into the collective reading. As I'm recording this right now, we are in Cancer season. And Cancer season is really special. Cancer is the sign ruled by the moon. And so this is a time of honoring our emotions. Cancer represents the mother, our sensitive, empathetic, nurturing sides, and asks us to honor our emotions again and check in with ourselves on how we are mothering ourselves, how we need to be remothering ourselves. If the things that we are doing are really working for us, holistically, not just humanly, not just the way that we, sometimes we tell ourselves like this needs to work because I have tunnel vision. It's just like, no, like sometimes it's actually not working for us. It's actually not in alignment. And so Cancer season asks us to examine that. It asks us to look at and ask ourselves what parts of our lives need nurturing. Also ask yourself what internal narratives, beliefs, and stories that you have about nurturing and maybe mothering. Maybe you have a difficult relationship with motherhood or with your own mother or the mother within you. What internal narrative, stories, and belief systems are you ready to release? As I record this, we're about to step into a new moon in Cancer, and so this is an opportunity to set intentions for new ways of nurturing your mind, body, spirit, energy, career, connections. And then on July 21st, which will be in Leo season, which I'll get into in a second, we have a full moon in Capricorn. This is our second full moon in Capricorn. We had one with the solstice on June 21st. And again, Capricorn is this sign of the mystical sea goat. The sea goat can climb the mountain, it can swim in the water, it can do it all, and really calls on us to have that sort of energy, to have more structure, to really hone in on, again, our beliefs, our internal structures, our external structures. What is working? What is not working? This is July, baby. This is the middle of the year. This is the actual middle of the year. We are now in the second half of 2024, which is just mind-boggling. And as we look at this as a collective, you need to look at this individually for yourself. I hear the sirens approaching. If you've been watching these monthly readings, you know that when sirens approach, I live in New York City, and so it's always very noisy. But I'm recording this early in the morning so that we can sort of mitigate the sound a little bit, but the sirens are still approaching. And when the sirens approach, it's just like, are you listening? This is really important. At least that's how I take it. Are we listening? Are we listening? Are we listening? We have a full moon in Capricorn, our second full moon in Capricorn, which is just like, hello, this is your second chance to release around these themes of structure, lack of structure. Maybe you have too much structure. Maybe the structures that you have internally and externally in your life are limiting you from having a more open perspective. As I was saying, as we look at this as a collective, we see what both the lack of proper structure and the implementation of too much structure that isn't in alignment with our highest and greatest good is doing to us as a people. By the way, I want to take the time to say that my outfit details are linked in the description box because these are both made by women of color and the proceeds go to Gazan Relief. Just wanted to take the second to say that. With that said, we are obviously in an auspicious time to really take care of what we need to take care of, to see what we need to see as we are stepping into the second half of 2024. Let's talk about Leo season. Shout out to all the Leo risings, Leo suns, Leo moons. People love to talk about Leo being this very, like, again, like the lion, the king of the jungle, right? Very much about the self. And Leo is about the self. Leo, unlike Cancer, who's ruled by the moon and is more about our internal world, Leo is ruled by the sun, which is about our external brilliance. While Cancer is about the mother and about our emotions and nurturance and empathy, Leo is about our father, our masculine side, again, our brilliance, our identity. It's a time to really tap into our creativity, our passion, which came up in our last reading, which was sort of like the readings all sort of like connect together. And so in the last reading, we got the passion card and we were asked to really look at what ignites our passion. What do we need to be letting go of that doesn't relate or doesn't support us fully being connected to our passion? And now we're stepping into Leo season where we get to put these things into practice. And so again, it's a really creative time, a time to be about your passion, to create the structures necessary for you to be fully involved and really put your passions out into the world. It's a time to be courageous, to take brave steps into the future that you want. But like any energetic season, you want to be careful of the downsides. And with Leo, you want to be careful of not being too arrogant, not being too self-centered, of also not only thinking about your individual self-care, your individual liberation, which is a lot of what we're talking about here, but also our collective self-care and our collective liberation, which is also a lot of what we're talking about here. I gave you some Cancer season prompts. I want to give you some Leo season prompts as well. You can ask yourself, how am I meant to take more responsibility for how I am co-creating in my life? Based on the things that are happening in my life, the connections that are coming in and the connections that are being dissolved, how am I meant to become more of a leader individually and collectively? Again, this is very much a time of like passionate and creative rebirth. So think about who you want to be in 6 months. Who you want to be in 6 months. Right now, we're experiencing a Cancer new moon and a full moon in Capricorn. Where do you want to be when you reach that Cancer full moon? Where do you want to be when you reach the Capricorn new moon? Who do you want to be? What does your life sound like? What does your life look like? What does your life feel like, taste like? I have a beautiful and amazing and powerful meditation that is free. It's on YouTube. I'm going to link it up here. I'm going to link it in the description box, and I'm going to link it at the end of this video, that you should absolutely be doing right now. If you've done it before, do it again. This is something that I have implemented into my personal practices and my personal both spiritual practices and also like my human practices, because it allows me to envision, again, based on my senses, we are sensory beings, what do I want my life to feel like and look like? It's not always about like thinking about the specifics. Oh, I want to make this type of money, or I want to travel here. Sometimes we don't need to know that. How do you want to feel? When you set the intentions from an embodied and a sensory place, you allow the universe, you allow the divine to take you exactly where you need to be. That is a little bit about the energy. Let's get into the collective reading. I'm going to be pulling oracle cards, 4 or more. Sometimes we get more oracle cards from different decks that are going to inform us on the energy that we need to be cultivating, the messages that we need to be honoring this month as we step into the world. And you can take this. This is going to hit you probably individually. I love when y'all share in the comments. I've been loving having conversations with y'all in the comments about how these messages resonate with you based on where you are in your life, or based on where you see yourself in the future. And this is also going to pertain to how we are evolving as a society collectively. So take that into account. We're going to start with the Goddess Guidance Oracle deck by Doreen Virtue. Let's see what our first message is for July 2024. Okay, looks like we had 2 cards that jumped out of the deck. The first card is the Goddess Guinevere, and the card is True Love. True Love. Just pay attention to the imagery. These are goddess cards, so it's going to present us with a goddess every time. The goddess Guinevere, true love, the romantic stirrings in your heart have propelled the universe to deliver great love to you. Ooh, already getting a message there. And then we have the goddess Sulis, bodies of water. Spend time near water, such as a lake, river, or ocean to recharge their battery, totally aligned with Cancer season. And this one is totally, the goddess Guinevere, totally aligned with Leo season, I would say. And so I think this gave us, even look at the colors. We have the red and the blues. Like, this is totally giving us Cancer season, Leo season vibes right now. Let's start with the goddess Guinevere, the card True Love, because I feel like most of you are going to look at this card and receive this message and say, oh, this is about my romantic relationships. And this is not at all what I'm receiving. I think of love as the fuel for life. I think this is very much based on the teachings of Marianne Williamson, who, when I was starting off on realizing that I'm on a spiritual journey, I read like all of her books and was like obsessed with this notion of like there are only two emotions and two feelings, two paths, two energies in the world. There is either love and there is fear. And I still to this day, 10 plus years later, very much believe that. And so when I hear this message of like, or receive this message of the romantic stirrings of your heart have propelled the universe to deliver great love to you, it's just affirming that this is a time of great passion and a time of great creativity. When we think of love, it's not just, again, the love that we have for another, but the love that we have for our life. And whether or not we are setting intentions, whether or not, we have a very clear vision of what we think we want or what we think we're doing in the world, it's our feeling, it's our sensory, our emotions that are really bringing us forward and are really communicating through our aura to the universe what it is that we truly want. So whether or not, again, we have this tunnel vision, it's our aura that is communicating, it's our energy that's communicating to spirit what it is that we want to feel. And so spirit, the universe, may sometimes interject and totally disrupt our human plans. And so I'm feeling that some of you are probably feeling disrupted in this moment, which doesn't need to be a bad thing. And I'll talk about that in a second, because I totally went through a moment of disruption last week that I wanted to quickly touch on as like me adding a personal touch to this reading and a personal experience. But disruption doesn't need to be bad. Shift your perspective to being a little bit more neutral. Disruption doesn't need to be bad. Spirit disrupting your human plans just means that your plan was a little too small. Your plan is a little too limited. And spirit, the universe, God, great mother, cosmic mother, has something or some things in store for you that are way more in alignment with where you need to be, with your truth, with your authenticity, with who you are as a cosmic soul. And so pay attention to what it is that you are feeling. What it is that you're feeling. Maybe you're tapped out of that feeling of true love and passion. Maybe when I say passion, maybe you get pissed off. Maybe you feel like, I haven't felt passionate about anything in a long time. That alone is a notification to take a look at what's going on in your life. What are you giving your attention to? What don't you need to be giving your attention to? What are the internal structures that you've had in place for so long, or maybe not for long, that just do not fit, that do not feel good, that don't feel in alignment, okay? So looking at true love and paying attention to whatever is vibrating in your aura. You could be saying one thing, but your aura could be totally saying another thing. And your aura is important. If you're not familiar with the aura, it's our electromagnetic field. We are electric beings. And so whether or not we could be saying one thing, our sound vibrations, our thoughts could be saying one thing, but our aura could be completely saying another thing, especially if we're not paying attention to our energetic hygiene. We could be totally focused on a goal, but if we're spending time around people, places, and things, and doing things and taking in energy that isn't in alignment with this goal or these things that we want to manifest, these places where we want to be, our aura is going to be filled with the opposite of what we want. And so the universe is going to come and interject and disrupt your systems so that you can pay attention to what you need to pay attention to. And so these are like messages that some of you really need to be taken to heart individually. This is also pertaining to us as a collective. We're obviously being disrupted. We've been disrupted over and over and over for centuries, but like these cycles are repeating because we're not paying attention. We very much want Like, again, the romantic stirrings in your heart have propelled the universe to deliver great love to you. We very much are lacking love as a society. We are lacking love. We are lacking true community, which is why we see so many microcosms of community and support popping up. We see people building beautiful communities. I'm one of those people who had a beautiful community for 5 years where we nurtured over 500 women of color through mind, body, spirit, and energetic growth and advancement and learning and education. That was a microcosm of what I wanted to see in the macrocosm of the world. And so you may think of yourself as like somebody who is building these tiny microcosms of community, of support, of learning, of nurturing. How can you bring that and make it bigger? It's one of the reasons why I'm posting these readings now publicly. I've done these oracle readings for the energy of every month since 2019 for my microcosm of a community, for my small community. And this year I decided to dissolve that community in favor of more love, more education, more expansion, and expansion of consciousness in the world. Okay, and so think of how you can do something similar, how you are meant to surrender to the divine plan of expansion. How are we meant to expand our love? What are the actions that you can be taking? Very small actions. They don't have to be grand things. Actions that you can be taking to affirm your passion in the world and to expand upon your passion, to expand upon this new perspective. Beautiful messages coming through for the message of true love, the goddess Guinevere. Now let's get into the goddess Sulis, bodies of water. This is totally a Cancer season card. I think this is very much supporting what we need to be doing here, where this is calling on us to, again, expand and clear perspectives and internal structures and external structures. Show up for the dismantling of external structures that are not supporting us as a people. But like, how do we support ourselves as we do this? Because it's hard shit to surrender. It's really, really tough. It is. I've done it many, many times. I just shared with you that I just did it. You know how hard it was to dissolve a community of hundreds of women who I've supported, who I've gotten to know, who have basically become soul family for me, who have become soul family for each other, and to say, hey, I'm dismantling this. This isn't working in the way that it's working anymore. And so I want to expand upon this. The human parts of me felt like I was giving up, but the soul parts of me know that there's something bigger. And so how did I support myself through that process? I still am. I very much still am. I very much am still grieving. So much so that I don't think I've really announced it to the public that I've done this. I'm very much still grieving, but some of the things that are supporting me are water. Drinking more water. I always have my water beside me. Being by bodies of water. Seeking being by water. And why? Because water is replenishing. It's regenerative. It is a reminder of our vastness, our internal vastness, our collective vastness. There was a video that I love, and I'm going to try to find it and post here, but where a man was like channeling how he very much believes that maybe God is water. What if water is God?
Then that would mean God is both in us and all around us. That God is both above and below us. Why a woman's water breaks when we're born, and why some religions observe the ritual of baptism. But if water was God, then that would mean that God has no gender, that God takes the shape of whatever container God appears in, which would explain why we have so many different belief systems, which begs the question, what is the spiritual significance of poisoning the water in Flint, Michigan, or the oil burning in the Gulf of Mexico, or the large islands of garbage floating in the Pacific Ocean? If God was water, would that not mean that every natural place is holy? That every thunderstorm was a church without walls? That when the rain falls, it's an act of God's death giving life, and when it evaporates again, it's the day of resurrection? And life itself was just a test of learning how to be and flow like water, how to give life to other people, and how to refresh their spirits and quench their thirst with your presence.
Maybe God is water. And so us getting this message of bodies of water is, again, having us think about, again, our vastness, think about our flexibility, our malleability, our adaptability. Water forms to whatever container it is put in. And I think that's super important to where we are as a collective right now. Just because we want liberation doesn't mean that we can force it. We need to be malleable to be able to squeeze ourselves into places where we are told we don't belong, right? Water seeps through and it is cleansing and regenerative, but it can also be destructive. Right now, as I'm recording this, there is a massive hurricane that is passing through the Caribbean right now. And so it can also be destructive. Water is how we come to be, how we come into life in amniotic fluid, right? We are born from water, but we can also die by water. And so think about, in this shift from Cancer season into Leo season, this water season into a fire season, what is meant to come to life? What are you meant to be supporting in your rebirth? And what are you meant to be supporting, almost like as a death doula for yourself, right? As a part of your life dies, as a part of the world is dying, what do we need to kill off? What do we need to sacrifice? What do we need to let drown or burn, right? As we step into Leo season, in favor of this rebirth. Really profound messages coming through for Sulis and Guinevere, the messages of true love and bodies of water. And let me know again in the comments how these messages are resonating for you. Let's step into the next card. Coming from the Work Your Light Oracle deck. Excuse me. Work Your Light Oracle deck by Rebecca Campbell. Second message for July 2024. Okay, just like that. We have a card, and I just realized before I look at the card, I forgot to light my incense. I have a beautiful incense. This is sage and lavender. One of my best friends got it for me, and I totally forgot to do that. Take that first step to set the altar. I knew there was something missing. I always like to bring in the elements into whatever practice, especially a reading. Have something like fire. I usually have a cup of water, which I don't have right now, but usually have a cup of water to represent water. I represent the earth, and my voice, what I'm sharing, represents the air. But getting this message, fill up your well, retreat, rest, and refuel, which reminds me to tell you the story of how I was disrupted last week, because it totally pertains to this, and how I had to disrupt my own thoughts in order to receive the rest, retreat, and refuel that I needed. This is totally relevant to these, because again, this is a support card. We get cards that are action cards, and maybe this helps you as you're learning to read your own cards. Maybe it's tarot, maybe it is oracle cards, but you'll always get action cards like this one, and you'll always get support cards like this one. This and this are going to support this very important and huge action. We're talking about rebirth and death and rebuilding structures and taking down structures, which is a huge ask. And then we're getting support cards. What is going to support us through this process? This is definitely a support card. We need rest, retreat, and refuel. And we need to honor what are the things that are helping us rest, retreat, and refuel in this season, because it shifts in every single season. Okay? I had the immensely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful opportunity to go to the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health in Massachusetts, in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, for a week of rest and retreat and refuel. I was one of the, I think, 14 people who were chosen to be a part of the Sacred Artists Regenerative Rest and Recalibration program, where I made 20 beautiful friends. There are people that were there already on the year-long Regenerative Sacred Artists program. And then I met all these beautiful people from all over the world, all walks of life, who were also just there to rest And upon being chosen for this, I actually got the news just a day before I left to California. If you haven't watched my birthday vlog, I truly encourage you to. Maybe you're not a vlog person, which is totally fine. There's so much education and a glimpse into how I live my life and how I bring in my birthday, which is totally a new year. But I got the news just before, right before I left, right after I set my birthday intentions for rest and strength and recalibration and inspiration and refuel. Not only was it a disruptive week in the way that it disrupted my burnout, because I'm used to living and burning through my fuel in order to get to do the things that I do. I have been going nonstop for 5 years since I quit my job in 2018 and worked through the death of my only brother and worked through the pandemic without quitting. And so not only did it disrupt these systems that I had in place that were not working for me, but it also gave me the time and space to disrupt my own mental thoughts and beliefs, because the Kripalu sensor is totally unplugged, and so you're not allowed to use your phone in public spaces. You're only allowed to use it in your room, and so I couldn't be on my phone, which meant I couldn't post on Instagram, which meant I couldn't answer YouTube comments, which meant I could not be connected to the people, connected to technology, which is something that I don't usually get the luxury of doing, being that I run a business and being that, again, the world is going through such turmoil, and I use my social media to amplify the truth. That immediately bothered me. How was I going to be disconnected from my people? How was I going to do something that I don't usually get the luxury of doing? What are people going to think if I don't post, right? If I'm not amplifying the messages of the people in need, if I'm not amplifying resources, events and things that are going to help the collective, right? And then I had to realize that I need to fill up my well too, in order to be able to amplify from a place of fullness, from a place that is helping me too. And so I am delivering this message very much rested, and also recognizing that I'm not even rested enough, that 1 week is not enough to trump or take care of the lack of nurturance that I haven't been able to give myself fully in the past 5 years, that I need to now. I'm just full enough to be able to come home and reintegrate, which I'm totally still reintegrating, to come home and reintegrate and redo the internal structures with which I carry my message. And so you might have noticed when I introduce myself that the way that I'm introducing myself is even different. I'm not all these things. I'm just a sacred artist with many mediums. And I'm so grateful to the folks at Kripalu, to our facilitator and mentor, Iset Rose, to the beautiful people that I met there, to the beautiful mirrors that I was able to see myself through. And so if you're ever looking for a week of rest, I totally encourage you to look at Kripalu. With that, I want to leave you with this message of fill up your well. There's no way that we're going to be able to carry out individual and collective liberation if we are not resting. There is no way that we are going to be able to carry out our personal and our collective liberation if we are not resting, if we are not rebuilding our internal and external systems to support pockets of rest and retreat and refuel. There is just no way. There's no way that this fight is sustainable if we are not resting, if we are not implementing joy, if we are not implementing pleasure, if we are not implementing joy, if we are not implementing pleasure, if we are not implementing time with the elements, time away from screens. Okay? The passion will burn dry if we are not watering ourselves. Okay? Always think of yourself as a plant. What is your fertilizer in this season? Many of you are watching from the northern hemisphere in the summer season. Maybe you're watching from the southern hemisphere. Maybe it's winter for you. In this season, what is now regenerative? We just shifted from spring into summer. What is regenerative for you? What's meant to be your fertilizer? How often are you watering yourself with rest, with pleasure, with fun? Okay? Is it time for you to shift pots? Is it time for you to shift where you are? How you are doing life? Maybe the places where you've been are no longer working for you. I'm looking at my plants on the other side of this camera that totally need to be repotted because they have outgrown their home. They have outgrown their space. And so in the season of expansion, what are the connections, spaces, mindsets, beliefs, thought forms? Maybe it is your actual home that no longer feels nurturing, that you can no longer empathize with, you can no longer give them any nurturance because they are not serving you in response. And no, please tell yourself, I'm guided to just tell you that it's okay. It's okay. The loss that you're going through and the loss that you're about to go through is okay. And this is speaking from someone. Please know that I know that loss just brings space for incredible rebirth. Incredible rebirth. You have to give yourself the space. You have to honor the ways that the universe is making space for you. Okay? With that, let's jump into the next card. Let's jump into the Energy Oracle cards by Sandra Ann Taylor. Love these cards. And then we're going to jump into a new deck. New deck alert. We're going to jump into a new deck that I actually purchased while I was at Kripalu, which just, it means a lot that I was able to purchase a tool in that energy of rebirth and refuel and death and regeneration. So let's jump into this next message for July 2024. Okay. Ooh, special. We had a card leap out of the deck beautifully, and it is the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra, which binds together our upper chakras and our lower chakras, and it is the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, Archangel Raphael. Archangel Raphael. Look at this beautiful. This is one of my favorite decks. Just so gorgeous in the imagery and the messages. I'm going to read. I always read from this deck because it's just so gorgeous. And because this deck gives us different definitions for different messages for whether the card falls upright or down, upside down. So if you're somebody who wants to start pulling their own oracle cards, I totally recommend it. If it's not already a part of your practice, definitely recommend this deck. I leave links to all the decks that I use in the description box. But let's read from this one. Fourth chakra, Archangel Raphael. Love, compassion, and self-acceptance. Raphael extends a beautiful green energy surrounded by gentle waves of pink to your heart center, This card upright indicates that you now have a greater readiness to receive love from others as well as from yourself. It could also indicate that a much needed healing from a previous broken heart is taking place. The tender vibrations of Raphael remind you to encourage yourself with the compassionate self-talk that you desire to hear from others. Know that as you do, the light from your heart center will shine with an irresistible beauty, and the universe will send people and situations that cause your sense of love and support to grow and grow. Again, affirming this message that whatever is in your aura is just being boomeranged out and coming back to you. Affirming that this is a time of regeneration, retreat, and refuel, so that you have the time and space to consider the ways that you are loving yourself and the ways that you are loving the world, and maybe the lack thereof, right? And so also this card is reminding us that we're not doing it alone. We're not doing it alone. Rely on our spirit messengers, rely on our archangels, on our benevolent ancestors, on our benevolent spirit guides, on spirit. Rely on the spirit within yourself, that you're not just doing this as a human being. Sometimes in these seasons of death and rebirth, we can sometimes begin to over-identify with the pain. Totally normal. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not regenerative, and we need regeneration right now. What's going to push us through, the force that's going to push us through in this season of death and rebirth is going to be love and not fear. Okay, and that over-identifying with pain is over-identifying with fear. It's that fear of being hurt. Oh my God, I am hurting. Oh my God, I am so in pain. Maybe it's physical pain too. Great book that's coming to mind is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. In the back, she has a whole like dictionary of like what your physical pain, how that equates to the energy within you, and what that is telling you about your energy centers and how they relate. Well, maybe your emotional pain is causing physical pain. Ooh, this is a strong message that's coming through. Some of y'all are literally going through physical pain, physical discomfort, and you're trying all the things, and you're working out maybe, and you're moving and cleansing and doing different things and taking medications even that are not working for you. And it's because it is emotional. It has emotional roots. And so turning towards alternative medicines like movement, like sunlight. If we're talking about what is going to be supportive in this season of rest and recalibration of death and rebirth, sunlight, hello. We're in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. This is a time of sun. The sun is at its zenith, at its highest point, at its brightest point. And yes, now we're getting into, as the days progress, the days are getting darker and darker sooner. But we're not there yet. So take advantage this July where it's hot and the sun is high and it's giving off the most prana, life force energy. Take in that energy. And as you take in that energy, be a boomerang for it as well. How can you pay that forward into your own life and also into the collective? What a special, special, special spread. We still have one more card. But love this card reminding us of the importance of our heart center, of our heart energy. When I think of the heart and when I'm doing alignment sessions, and I have some alignment sessions available for July if you're ready to sit with me, which are, if I don't say so myself, life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. Definitely a step that my clients take in their lives when they're ready to take this true step of rest, of death and rebirth, of figuring out and finding out where it is that they need to, what's their true north, where it is that they need to be paying attention to when it comes to this next step, this next leg in their life and in their evolution. Love that this heart card is coming up, because when I think of the heart, I think of not only love and how you give it, but how you receive it. I think of forgiveness. I think of grief, which are all things that we need to be paying attention to right now. And so I'm going to point to a free resource that I have created as well. I also have a heart chakra meditation here on this channel that I'm going to try to link at the end of this video as well. And I'll link into the description box. But that is also going to support us on this journey. We need to be supporting ourselves energetically on this journey forward, individually and collectively. We need to be resting and recalibrating, but that can mean many things. It can mean actually prioritizing sleep. It can mean prioritizing time with people who feel regenerative for us. Sometimes some of you have friends that are like lifelong friends, but are not really friends. Those aren't regenerative and those aren't restorative relationships. That again, when I was talking about you having a vision of your future, but being around places and environments and people that don't match that. Some of y'all have people like that you need to be willing to lessen your time with. Maybe you don't have to go through this full breakup or this full, I think that's very much trendy right now, especially as we talk about collective liberation and Gaza and Palestine and Sudan, Puerto Rico, people who aren't paying attention to that. There are activists that are like, you should break up with your friends. And it's just like, sometimes you don't. That's my opinion. Sometimes you don't have to go through this massive breakup, but you could just peep game. I peep game, and I don't want to be in such tight quarters with somebody who doesn't share in these really important values. And so maybe just let those types of relationships wash away with Cancer season, with Leo season, right? Because they do not feel restorative. It's a way that you can fill up your well, by being in connection with people and communities that truly feel supportive for you. And I'm saying this fresh off of this retreat where I met 20 people and was with them for 6 days, and I was revealing truths and speaking to them in a way that felt more comfortable than how I feel around people who I've known my entire life. And so sometimes it be like that. And you gotta honor those calls for true community. And if you feel like you lack that, again, there are people building microcosms of amazing community. Comment something if you need a friend. It's in the comment section of like some of my favorite platforms that I've met friends, that I've been able to build community. And so love this message. Fourth chakra, Archangel Raphael. Pay attention to your heart. Okay, what is your heart telling you about the ways that you need to restructure right now? Let's pull our last card. I know this reading is getting long. My bad. And also not my bad. I'm flowing and going, and this is these are really important messages. I picked up this deck at Kripalu called The Infinite Wisdom of the Chakras, written by Alison De Nicola and art by Dira Lawrence. And it's just such a gorgeous deck, especially being somebody who is an energy reader, energy healer, who intuits very important information from our energy centers. And so let's see. First time using this deck for a collective reading, what messages we need to receive, final messages for July 2024. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to honor that card flipped over. Wow. The card is fish pose, so it gives a lot of like yoga poses. Fish pose, release. Surrender to your higher self and release all judgments. Talk about bodies of water, talk about passion. Look at the colors that are resonating here. The pose. This is a heart-opening pose. So if you're looking for practices that are going to be supportive as you're dealing with like the crumminess of surrender, this is a beautiful pose and something that may be accessible to many of us, if not all of us, based on our physical limitations. Fish pose. I can't make this shit up. Like, I cannot make this shit up. The cards do not lie. Look at that. I opened the booklet. Sirens are sirening. It's telling us to pay attention. This is our final card, our final message for July 2024. And I'm going to read from the booklet. The yoga pose called Matsyasana is commonly known as fish pose. The practice often follows the inversion known as shoulder stand and is effective in releasing compression from the throat and finding more opening in the heart. It is a wonderful release for the throat center as well as the whole front of the body. This pose is symbolic and encouraging the throat to let go of the tendency to hold judgment and criticism about ourselves and others. It is nearly impossible to open the throat and not open the heart as well. We're going to talk about that. This powerful metaphor speaks to what happens in our life when we can release negative expression. Our heart naturally grows wider and more open. Criticism and judgment are two of the most influential energies in shutting down our creative efforts. Without fear of being judged, we are more willing to venture outside of our comfort zones. This is where we can find growth in our soul's evolution. Whether you practice yoga or not, this card is an encouragement to use the physical gesture of opening the throat center. This can come from simple movements, breath work, chanting, toning, or throat opening postures such as this one. Any of these energetic movements is also necessary on a subtle level to encourage release. What have you been holding on to here in the throat? Unkind words, self-judgments, criticism from others. These vibrations can erode our sense of self and our confidence, keeping ourselves small and constricted in a self-protection mechanism that we might have adopted to insulate us from harsh words or actions. You no longer need to continue holding in this way. As you release the energy in the throat, feel your heart open with more love and self-acceptance. Place a blue sky feather of hope here on the throat as a gesture of healing. Feel the effects of release in all areas of your life. And then the power statement or affirmation that this deck offers us is, I am ready to reclaim my voice and higher expression. Love that this is affirming this card, okay, of opening the heart, but it's also talking about opening the throat, which is important for all these other cards, okay, especially for this one. Speaking up for our passion, opening up our throat center, releasing judgment and criticism of our journey in favor of the journey, unfolding in whatever ways it needs to unfold for our highest and greatest good. Speaking up for the ways that we need to rest, retreat, and refuel. The fact that it doesn't need to make sense to anybody but yourself is so important. But speaking up, maybe it means speaking up at work and being like, hey, I need this time off. Sorry to tell you, I will not be able to be as productive if I do not take time off to rest. And don't just take a vacation and go to a retreat or a resort and drink alcohol and do all these things that are not regenerative to your mind, body, and spirit, but actually take the time to rest. This is me telling you, somebody who just spent a week taking many naked naps in the sunlight in my bedroom, okay, on this retreat, something that I didn't know that I needed at the time. I thought the rest and retreat and refuel that I was giving myself here at home was enough, and sometimes it's not enough. And so I say this from a very privileged place. I do acknowledge that. But if you have the privilege of taking time off, or even simple things like getting to bed on time, it's a way that you are honoring your needs, okay? Love that this card is affirming, okay, the ways that we need to be working with our energy right now. Opening up the heart, opening up the throat. Okay, this is green energy. This is blue energy. Maybe you wear more green and blue. Maybe you, again, this talks about placing a blue feather here on the throat. Maybe you wear green and blue jewelry. Eat green and blue foods. Visualize on the colors green and blue. Again, I told you I was going to link you to this meditation that I created for the heart, which is just really, really special and asks us to envelop ourselves in green light. But this is super, super important. This whole spread, just incredible messages, seeking to recenter us in what matters right now. Because sadly and unfortunately, our attention is being pulled in every which way. And I think that also serves as a disruption. Sometimes when our attention is pulled in every which way, we tend to just like stop everything so that we can listen to what really matters. And I hope that if you're in this season of feeling disrupted by all the cacophony of noise around you, that you do that and give yourself a moment to just breathe and exercise your right to honor your needs, to open up your throat, honor your needs, and open up your heart to forgive, release, and also welcome in the energies that are necessary in this season of death and rebirth. Please let me know in the comments if these are practices that you're going to adopt this month. We got into a lot of, yes, messages and energies and things that we need to take care of, but also a lot of practical guidance coming through this month. Yoga poses and colors that we can be eating and wearing, and meditations that I'm so honored to offer you. I also have a video coming out probably this week or next week on surrender, divine surrender, and what that all means for us as cosmic energy beings. Thank you so much for giving me the honor and the pleasure of doing this every single month. I never want to stop, at least right now. I never want to stop. If there ever comes a time for me to honor the call to pause, I will. And I hope that y'all understand if and when that time comes. But this just fills me with so much joy and purpose to be able to offer my gifts in this way. I will see you in the comments. There's a lot of questions, a lot of prompts, a lot of guidance that was offered in this reading. Take your time listening to it, because I'm sure this reading is going to be very long. But thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.